Imagine you're a Russian tank commander. Your thermal sight is scanning tree lines 3 kilometers out. That's the distance you've trained for. That's the envelope where you expect danger to begin. 4 kilometers feels uncomfortable. 5 kilometers feels impossible. And then your rangefinder flashes a number you didn't think mattered, because at that distance, you still believe you're safe. That belief is the myth, and Britain's Challenger 2 has been quietly crushing it. For decades, there's been an unspoken assumption in armored warfare. Unguided tank rounds are brutal, yes, but they're not precision sniper fire at extreme range. 2 to 3 kilometers, realistic. Beyond that, probability drops. Wind, temperature, barrel wear, human error. Past a certain point, you're lobbing steel and hoping physics cooperates. Challenger didn't hope, it rewrote the math. It's the kind of math your high school teacher promised you'd use one day, though they probably didn't mention it would be for launching a supersonic tungsten dart at a T-72. In 1991, during the Gulf War, a British Challenger tank destroyed an Iraqi tank at a distance often quoted between 4.7 and 5.1 kilometers. An armor-piercing sabot round, no guidance system, no laser beam riding the target. Just a hypervelocity dart calculated, fired, and delivered across nearly 5 kilometers of desert. It became the longest confirmed tank-to-tank kill in history. That shot shattered a quiet assumption inside military planning rooms, that conventional tank guns simply couldn't dominate that far out. Fast forward 3 decades. The battlefield has changed. Drones hunt from above. Precision artillery stalks movement. Tanks that once led assaults now risk annihilation if they linger in open ground. And yet in Ukraine, Challenger 2 is once again being described the same way British crews once described it in Iraq. A sniper rifle among tanks. That phrase didn't come from a marketing brochure. It came from Ukrainian crews who discovered something unexpected when they began operating the British machine under real combat conditions. Because this war forced tanks into a new role. Early in the invasion, both Russia and Ukraine used tanks the traditional way, spearheading assaults, breaking lines, clearing trenches. It didn't last. FPV drones and layered anti-tank defenses made frontal advances brutally expensive. A 60-ton vehicle suddenly became a slow, obvious target in a sky full of cheap explosives. So, tanks adapted. Instead of charging forward, the most valuable Western tanks, Abrams, Leopards, and Challengers, began operating further back, hidden under tree lines, masked by terrain, acting less like battering rams and more like long-range precision fire platforms. That shift is where Challenger 2's personality starts to matter. At the heart of the tank sits its defining feature, the 120mm L30A1 rifled gun. Unlike the smoothbore guns on most modern NATO tanks, the Challenger's barrel is cut with helical grooves. When it fires certain rounds, those grooves spin the projectile, stabilizing it in flight. The British stuck with rifling long after others standardized smoothbores, partly to support specialized ammunition like HESH, high explosive squash head. That's another acronym for y'all acronyms lovers. Let me know in the comments if you want me to be your acronym dealer. Precision isn't magic, it's mechanics layered with computation. Challenger 2's digital fire control system constantly adjusts for wind speed, air temperature, barrel wear, vehicle movement. The commander uses a stabilized panoramic sight with a laser range finder. The gunner has thermal imaging capable of spotting small heat signatures at impressive distances. Once the laser measures the range, the computer builds the firing solution almost instantly. The crew doesn't guess, they select. One Ukrainian loader explained it simply. 2 targets appear at different distances, both are ranged, both are stored. When the commander chooses, the gunner switches with a button press. The tank is already thinking ahead of the shot. That is how you make 5 kilometers survivable. Not common, not casual, but possible. Now here's where the myth fractures again. Challenger 2 in Ukraine has reportedly scored a kill on a Russian T-55 at a distance beyond 5 kilometers. Whether you call it 5.0 or 5.1 doesn't matter. What matters is what it represents. Russian armored doctrine traditionally anticipates effective enemy tank fire, beginning much closer. At extreme distances, crews expect artillery or missiles, not a direct fire sabot round arriving at supersonic speed. The ammunition is just as specialized. They use depleted uranium darts that don't mushroom on impact. They self-sharpen, punching through armor like a needle through paper. At 5 kilometers, that's the difference between a loud noise and a catastrophic kill. Because the further the engagement, the more likely the target crew believes they still have time. This doesn't mean every Challenger shot is 5 kilometers. It means that if a Ukrainian crew can see you clearly enough and the conditions align, they can reach out far beyond what many Russian crews instinctively consider lethal territory, and that changes behavior. When a weapon forces your opponent to respect distance differently, it reshapes how they move, how they position, how long they expose themselves. A tank that can realistically threaten you beyond 4 kilometers compresses your safe zone, but range alone isn't what makes Challenger effective in Ukraine. Survivability is the second half of the equation. Challenger 2's armor is built around second-generation Chobham composite, often referred to as Dorchester. The exact composition remains classified, but it's layered, metals, ceramics, and other materials designed to disrupt penetrators and absorb explosive force. Against shaped charge threats, it offers significantly better mass efficiency than traditional rolled steel armor. That protection has already proven its worth in Ukraine. One reported incident involved a direct hit from a high-explosive projectile. The armor absorbed catastrophic energy. The vehicle was damaged heavily, but the crew survived. The tank moved. It completed the mission. In modern armored warfare, survival after impact is almost more important than avoiding impact. Crews who live fight again. Challenger's internal layout reinforces that philosophy. Ammunition storage includes blowout panels that vent an explosion upward rather than into the crew compartment. Propellant charges are individually protected to reduce fire risk. In Russian tanks like older T-72 variants, ammunition stored around the turret ring has contributed to catastrophic turret separations when penetrated. Challenger was designed to prevent that kind of instant annihilation. Then there's the most British feature ever designed, the BV, the boiling vessel. While other tanks are cramped, oil-choked engines of misery, the Challenger has a dedicated kettle for tea and ration heaters. It sounds like a joke until you're sealed inside for 48 hours under drone surveillance. In the British Army, a crew that can have a hot meal without opening a hatch is a crew that stays sharp. Comfort isn't a luxury here, it's a combat multiplier. On a drone-saturated battlefield where stepping outside can invite a strike within minutes, being able to remain inside the vehicle longer isn't trivial. It reduces exposure, it preserves morale, and morale matters when you're operating what is, realistically, a tiny fleet. The arrival of just 14 tanks wasn't a tactical tidal wave. It was a political earthquake. It broke the seal on Western heavy armor, ending the red line hesitation and paving the way for Leopards and Abrams to follow. Challenger wasn't just a weapon. It was the scout for an entire coalition. On the battlefield, though, being first also means being scrutinized. Challenger's weight, over 62 tons, combined with a 1,200 horsepower engine, makes it slightly less agile than some peers, particularly in Ukraine's infamous mud seasons. Soft ground can swallow power. Mobility becomes conditional. Crews must choose firing positions carefully, and maintenance isn't simple either. The L-30A1's rifled barrel, while contributing to precision, wears faster than modern smoothbores. But precision comes at a price. These barrels are a finite resource, requiring a logistics chain as specialized as the gun itself. This is not an infinite resource. It's a finite capability being used deliberately, which makes each long-range engagement even more calculated. Because when a Ukrainian Challenger fires from cover, supported by drone-fed coordinates, engaging a Russian position several kilometers away, it isn't reenacting 1991 for nostalgia. It's exploiting a narrow edge, a 60-ton vehicle acting like a precision rifle, a tank crew understanding that distance is no longer safety, and a myth that conventional tanks can't dominate at extreme range, quietly collapsing again under the weight of physics. That's where the real story begins. Here's the part most people miss. The 5-kilometer sniper story isn't really about distance. It's about control. Because in Ukraine, nobody owns the sky. but everyone is being watched by it. FPV drones drift over tree lines, recon drones hover silently above roads, artillery units sit miles back, waiting for coordinates to appear on a screen. The moment a tank moves in the open for too long, someone notices, and when someone notices, something flies. That reality killed the classic armored charge. So Ukrainian crews adapted Challenger 2 into something else entirely. A long-range precision asset that appears, fires, relocates, and disappears before the drone operators can react. Picture the sequence. A surveillance drone identifies a Russian fortified position, a tree line with dug-in armor or a hardened firing point. Coordinates are relayed. The Challenger is already positioned under concealment, hull down, exposing as little silhouette as possible. The laser rangefinder confirms distance. The ballistic computer finalizes the solution. The gun fires. At several kilometers, the Sabot round covers the distance in seconds. No warning tone, no missile plume, just impact. Then the Challenger moves. That mobility window, the time between firing and being targeted, is razor thin. Crews know it. That's why these tanks don't sit in one place trading shots like Cold War doctrine imagined. They act more like mobile artillery that can defend itself. And here's where the rifled gun earns its reputation again. Hesh rounds, rarely discussed in modern tank debates, become especially useful in this role. Instead of penetrating armor with a dart, a Hesh shell spreads explosive material across a surface before detonating, sending shockwaves through concrete or thinner armor against bunkers, fortified buildings, and older vehicles. It can be devastating. That versatility matters in Ukraine, where not every target is a modern main battle tank. Some are Soviet-era vehicles. Some are entrenched positions built into tree lines and reinforced with earthworks. The Challenger isn't just reaching far, it's choosing the right tool for what it sees. Now contrast that with what Russian crews are often operating. Many Russian tanks in Ukraine are T-72 variants, T-80s or older T-50s brought out of storage. Capable machines in the right context, but their engagement expectations were shaped around certain distances and certain patterns. When you extend the effective lethal envelope beyond what the opponent instinctively prepares for, hesitation creeps in. And hesitation on a modern battlefield is lethal. There's another layer to this that doesn't show up in statistics: psychology. If you're told that Western tanks can hit you accurately beyond 4 kilometers, you don't need to see the shot personally for it to affect your behavior. You reposition differently. You avoid ridge lines. You shorten exposure time. You assume that what you thought was safe ground isn't. A weapon that changes movement patterns is more influential than one that simply adds to destruction totals. But Challenger 2 isn't invulnerable, and Ukraine has learned that the hard way. At least one has been critically damaged by a Russian loitering munition. Others have required significant maintenance. Spare parts are not unlimited. The UK extended support contracts specifically to keep these vehicles operational, including training Ukrainian crews to perform deeper battlefield repairs themselves. When you only have 14, readiness becomes everything. Reports have suggested that at times only about half of Ukraine's Challenger fleet was fully operational. Not because they were all destroyed, but because of maintenance cycles, parts shortages, and the sheer intensity of combat conditions. This isn't a tank you can afford to waste, which may be why Ukrainian crews use it with restraint. They don't throw it into massed assaults anymore. They don't gamble it on exposed breakthroughs. They use it where its unique strengths, optics, precision, survivability, give them asymmetric value. And that restraint is part of the myth being crushed too. For years, critics argued that heavy Western tanks would be too advanced, too complex, too maintenance-heavy for Ukraine's battlefield, that they'd become liabilities, that logistics would strangle effectiveness. Instead, Challenger 2 found a niche, not as a blunt instrument, not as a propaganda symbol, but as a deliberate, high-precision tool deployed when conditions justify it. There's also the matter of detection. Challenger 2's profile and thermal signature aren't invisible. No tank is. But its optics allow crews to operate effectively in low visibility and at night. Thermal imaging systems can detect heat signatures at significant distances, giving crews the ability to see movement long before visual identification would be possible. In practical terms, that means the Challenger often sees first. And in armored warfare, the tank that sees first usually shoots first. Combine that with a stabilized gun capable of firing accurately even if the vehicle isn't perfectly static, and you get something that doesn't need to close distance to become lethal. Now zoom out. Russia entered this war with one of the largest armored forces in the world. Thousands of tanks, deep reserves, a reputation built on mass. But mass assumes certain engagement realities. It assumes that distance can be managed, that armor thickness determines survivability, that closing range is possible under suppressive fire. Challenger 2 doesn't defeat that mass by numbers. It challenges it by physics. A hypervelocity sabot round traveling across 5 kilometers doesn't care about how many tanks are in storage. It cares about line of sight, firing solution, and exposure time. And that's the quiet part of the story. The myth that was crushed isn't just tanks can't hit at 5 kilometers. It's the belief that sheer volume of armor guarantees dominance. When a smaller force can selectively eliminate targets at extreme range, when a single tank can operate like a precision rifle supported by drones, the old math shifts. That doesn't mean Challenger 2 wins wars by itself. It doesn't mean every engagement looks like a world record shot across open desert. It means that somewhere along a tree line in eastern Ukraine, a Russian crew might look at their display, see a number that once felt safe, and realize it isn't anymore. And that realization, more than the shot itself, is what changes the battlefield. The sniper tank has set a new standard, but with AI-guided drones and electronic warfare evolving every week, the game is changing again. So here's the question. Is the era of the heavy tank finally over, or has the Challenger 2 just shown us the blueprint for the next 50 years of armored warfare? Let me know your take in the comments. And if you want to see the machine that's replacing this legend, stick around for the next one.